this is so exciting. I love what you're doing. I love how you're doing it. I'm honored, thrilled.
I really just hope that I'm not going to cry through the interview because you're one of those people. You are so sincere,
Mm.
and it just cuts through everything, all the noise, and it just like goes right. You just had to take this key, and it's like the exact place in people's heart where people go, "Oh yeah, this person really sees me."
Mm.
And you're like a sprite. You're so creative and so kind and brilliant. And those are three things that just go so well together. So thank you for being on the show.
I mean it when I say this, that what you are doing is a bright light in the world, and I think it's a podcast I love listening to, and to be on it is an honor. But then I think the community around it's really special too, and so it's really a thrill and honor, and I don't want to mess this up.
You're not.
I'll say full sentences, the whole thing.
Well, I'm so happy you're here. And when my audience starts to hear, which you guys are listening now, some of you probably already know Brad because his work really is making big waves in the world. But those of you who don't, you're going to figure out very quickly how everything I just said is so obviously the truth because it's just what is. So, Brad, I want to talk to you first about what is the thing that got you in this place where you were like, I have to make things that help people come back home to this wonder inside of them? Where does this come from in you?
Oh man, I think it's been very personal in that I always loved to draw and make things that were funny. I did comics. I would finish tests early in fourth grade so I could draw on the back of them and do jokes to make classmates laugh or whatever. And I had a teacher that got me, that understood me. And then I stopped doing that. And I thought, well, you can't do that. That's childish. That's silly. That's all the things that you should grow up. I even like wanted to be an artist, and I'm like, I can't be an artist. I'll be somebody who actually can get a job. So I'll be a person who I'll be an architect. I'll make buildings because then I still draw. And then I realized that you have to draw with very precise lines, and I can't do that. And it would be a terrible building that would not last forever.
Right. Right.
And I sort of stopped. And I moved into work where I thought this is close enough to my heart's desire. So like I worked in the news for a while. I was had a camera, so I'm like, this is fun. I was occasionally like on camera. I was occasionally like getting to edit and cut stories, be with people. But when you're in news, you're telling people's worst day,
Yeah.
like over and over. It was just I would show up and there would be somebody who just had an accident, a car accident, or someone who, has just been acquitted, and anything. And there I am with the camera, and it really hit me that maybe there's a better story to tell. And so I went on a search for that, and bit by bit, and even still, I'm still looking for what's the better story that we could tell today. That's true. That's truer than true. That's resonates with me. That would resonate with a fourth grader now, but also finding that it also resonates with their teacher and their parents. Every person. It's just true.
I said I wasn't going to cry, and I already started to tear up because, and those, you've said you have listened to the show. I don't cry on every episode, but if you guys, after this episode, just go to Brad's Instagram and read the beautiful things that you write and the way that you illustrate these messages, there is just such a clear mission that you want to put kindness in the world. And I talk to so many smart people, Brad, but you're so unique.
Mm.
And you're so, it's like what you touch is turning to gold because the authenticity of it is so clear and you're so creative. And I think about that story and what you just told, and I'm so glad that you laid all that out. I didn't know any of that actually. I've just assumed you were always a creative. So I love hearing that journey. And just to think that someone who's meant to do the work you're doing could have been possibly stuck sitting somewhere drawing buildings. Not that that's a bad thing. Come
Mm.
on. Obviously, it's not what I'm saying. But for you
No.
to not do your work in this world,
Mhm.
that path doesn't seem realistic or practical. And you have so much like bubbling over from inside of your heart that you want to share.
That is the exact feeling that I had of I felt like I don't have the skill to do the stories I want to tell. I don't have the I want to draw a real human person, but I can't. They look like little potatoes
It's
with
hard. Yeah.
but I, there's something I have to. There's a better story that needs to be told. Like something needs to be shared. Um, we did a Kid President video where I quoted Robert Frost, that poem of two roads diverged in the woods, and then it's like, and I took the road less traveled, and it hurt. There were thorns, and it tore my pants off. It was like, thanks, not cool. Robert Frost was the big catchphrase there. But what happened was that was true because I learned a lot about taking the road less traveled and it really hurting, and then kind of making a joke about that's really not cool advice to give somebody, Robert Frost. But then what happened is all these people started sending me Robert Frost poems and quotes because the video just was a runaway train, and all these people were seeing it, and a couple people even were like, "Hey, I watched your video and your little YouTube video, and I quit my job." And I'm like, "Oh dear, this was
What
not."
have I done?
But one person sent me a Robert Frost quote in which he said something to the effect of, "A poem begins with a lump in the throat." It's this thing that it hurts if you're not going to say it. It's just going to cause you physical pain, and I think that's where I've I was for a long time. And then the more I began to share, that need to share outweighed my insecurities.
Yeah.
Still insecure about it. Still feeling like, oh, this is a little potato person. But if I don't share this, um, I am going to hurt inside.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's talk about, because we're obviously going to get to your new book, which I want to tell everybody what's going to be in there because it's coming in a few months. And of course, we're going to talk about Kid President and a few other special things. But tell us a little bit about the journey along the way. So like the lily pads that you sort of, the stops along the way between having that realization of, I don't want to be like recording these like heavy, sad stories. There's a better story to tell. And between that and where you are sort of today, between that and the first big breakthrough, what were some of the things that you tried that you felt were a milestone?
I think a big moment was then I began looking for, well, what's the better news to share? Like, what would that be? And then really being drawn to what I was seeing, what I was hearing about happening with young people. Like I was hearing about these students in our neighborhood who were starting drives and initiatives to help our neighbors who are homeless. And really kind of lasering in on there. One of the first groups was a couple of girls in rural Alabama that started a soup kitchen,
Hmm.
and went and spent the day with them. And in the same way I would have showed up to do a news piece, we showed up and I just was floored, uh, because it wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect, it was, but it was perfect because they saw a need. They rose up and met it. It was none of the adults in their lives said, you should do this. They literally just heard that there were kids that they had been tutoring that didn't have food outside of school. And so they started it. They said, well, they asked a couple of people that they knew that could cook, and they started bringing food, and they've been doing it for years. And I
Beautiful.
just thought that, why isn't this headline news? That why isn't this happening? Why don't we
Yep.
give them a platform?
Mm-hmm.
So more and more, I started spending time with those kinds of kids and finding that they were all over.
Mm-hmm.
And as I did that, I would share a few of them online, and I was still doing some art. But as I was working in a marketing office, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the team aspect of it. I enjoyed like what we were doing, but I was pouring my guts, my heart and soul into this stuff with the kids because that made me come alive. Like
Yeah.
made my bones shake. It was just like
Yeah.
this, this is important. Like what they're doing matters deeply. Um, and so there was a big distance between the joy and hope I felt when I was with kids, and then the work I would do that was in the business world, that was, sharing whatever was happening that we needed to work on, whatever that ended up being. And so Kid President grew out of this desire to bridge those audiences, to give voice to what was already existing in the world with kids, but that maybe wasn't being listened to. And it was really silly. Also, it was just, I wanted to spend time with family as I made these things. And Robbie, who played the part of Kid President, it's my little brother-in-law, or little brother as we just would refer to each other, lived across the street from me. And so he became I put him in his suit and said, let's have grown-ups listen to you. What would you say? And crafting out messages that would be a consistent, steady stream of changing the frequency of what was being shared and heard.
Yeah.
And as
Amazing.
it grew, I feel like I did too.
And did you have any sort of inkling that these videos would get shared and played millions and millions of times?
I was floored that I thought, we had 200 views or something on the first one, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. I'm so proud. Like people listened, it worked. And then fast forward, it was also partly it was less about, I want this to build a community around, I want this to get big. It was a very disciplined personal thing of, I had always had lots of ideas but had never stuck with one. Like I stuck with jobs, but personal art, personal projects, I would just get excited about the idea and let it go. And so this was a habit. I said, I'm going to every week make a video. I love being with him. I love writing this. I love the connection. And so every week, every Thursday, whether I had an idea or not, a video was going to come out. And, it was, I believe the 24th video is the one that actually made a splash, that people actually, you know, within a few days after that video, we were on the Today Show and Al Jazeera News, BBC, like all over the world. And I'm just like, I miss the 200 people.
Wow. Wow. Unbelievable. What happened in that time that made it sort of catch fire?
it was a combination of so many things that I think people ask all the time about wanting their work to go viral or wanting something to how to hack YouTube or whatever. And the answer is always so complex with anything that has built a following. The the thing that I know for certain is that we showed up consistently. The message only became more and more refined each time. It wasn't sometimes I would miss the mark, it'd be off key a bit, but it was always trying to find what am I trying to say about hope and joy and getting it. And that is, I felt like I finally got closer to what was in my heart and head in that one. So there was the craft part of that was, I feel like, landed. Then we're in the midst of an election season, and so there was this attention around politics and a need for this kind of different message.
Yeah.
But it was in January when it came out, so it was post-election. We're at the beginning of a new year, and when it clicked, it 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 was thrilling and terrifying. Thrilling in that people are listening, they're paying attention. I've been making things every day of my life for my whole life, and now suddenly people are paying attention. And then terrifying because, oh no, people are now paying attention. Yeah.
Right. And how many videos have you made since the 24th?
I don't know. We made hundreds, though. I think somebody did a count recently, and because a lot of times, for a long while, people would say, "Oh, Kid President, I love that video." I'm like,
You're like, no.
"Oh, yeah, well." But I get that because the nature of the internet is such that there's so much. But beyond that, I've continued the habit of making something and releasing something all the time, and it has been super healthy for me.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's so many beautiful messages, and we're going to move on from this because there's so much more to talk about, which is, it's hard to believe how much you create. Like, you're so prolific. You're just always making things. But before we sort of leave this beautiful piece, there's so many incredible messages. But if you had to boil it down, when you think about what you want viewers and what you've wanted viewers of Kid President to walk away with, what's the DNA of that? Like, what do you want? What did you really want to say with that series?
It was so much about a deep desire for connection. Everything in it is about somebody wanting to be heard. There's a little can phone with string on the desk. There's this all of the everything in the office there was designed to be able to somehow connect to people. The video that I felt like most says everything that I wanted was, there's one that I wrote for my son when he turned 1 on his first birthday, and it's called Letter to a Person on Their First Day Here. And it's all of this giant reminder that there are children all around us to listen to that deserve our attention. And there's this child inside of all of us too that desperately needs to be heard and nurtured and celebrated. And there's a line in that I have tried to make a habit of saying to every person I meet and mean it. And every time I make a video, every time somebody posts a comment, but I'm glad you're here. That is one of the most important things we can say and mean. And so in the video, it's as you meet this first baby on their first day, they're saying, I'm glad you're here. Just recently I got on an airplane and sat down, and I was like late to the flight and I was rushed, and I got to the my seat And the person next to me went, "Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't show up." And I like knew what she meant because I get that of, oh, you want your
Right.
whole, oh, and it's the end.
Yep.
But then I thought that is literally the meanest thing you could say to a person. I was hoping you weren't going to be here. Your presence. But I think a lot of ways we do is we don't necessarily let people know how much power they have, how much value they have, how much each person matters in the symphony of humanity. And so to listen to the smallest voice is a giant act of love that we should all do.
Yeah. I remember that's exquisite. A year ago on my birthday, my husband's like, "What do you want to do? It's your birthday." I'm like, "I want to go see the Mr. Rogers movie because it's out. Like
Oh,
that's what I
yeah.
want to do on my birthday." And I sat there and I'm just like, "This man, he's a preacher." And
Yeah.
because he looks straight down the barrel of the camera and says, "Just because you're you, you
Yes.
don't have to be anything else. And I like you just how you are." And every child that saw that, they they took a deep breath and went,
Oh, yeah.
and they just felt like, you know what, I can get through today,
I
right?
was
And
one of those kids.
I,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and that to be like him is such a, I mean, what an elevated soul. You are so much like him,
Mm.
and it's so genuine, and there's no posturing.
Are you gonna make me cry?
But it's
Are you
so
gonna?
true. It's so true. And one of the things that's so beautiful about you, and you said it before, and I want to bring it back because I think our audience really needs to hear it. I like how in some of your language you talk about like, this is for kids or people who are former kids, right? And you
Yes.
just said that before too. Like, I wanted to make this, for the child in all of us.
Mhm.
And I think so much of what you do, because I've literally had the thought, I'm not joking, I've had the thought, I could post things on Instagram or I could just repost Brad Montague's post every day, which would be weird because then I'm not saying anything new. But I've literally every day I'm like, oh, I'm such a groupie. I could repost everything.
Mm.
So in the work that you do, what just it just inspires me and fills my soul so much. There is such a beckoning to people that there's space here for you, and
Yes.
there's a whole table of things for you to get your hands dirty in and make that spot on the wall and add your color. And I have posted many things of yours, but one of them I posted months ago was this beautiful drawing of a table, and you're like, there's a seat waiting for you right at
Yeah.
the table.
Yes.
So tell us those of us who aren't convinced of that yet, what do you mean by that? What do you mean that there's someone inside of us that we left behind and that there's room for us when we've been surrounded by people who've told us to stay in the lines and pipe down and be like everyone else for so long? We forgot.
Yes. Yes. I think one of the things that would help all of us is a great remembering, a giant remembering of the people we were meant to be, the people that we are, with the people we forgot. That either it was quieted or forced out, um, dimmed, and yet it's still there. The the thing that I love when there are people who can welcome you, see you, and let you be who you are and be welcome. And I haven't always felt like I belonged. I haven't always felt like I had a voice that mattered, or a voice that I felt was a little too weird, a little too off, a little too not what I should be. And that longing has made me want to create bonfires of belonging, places where people can feel warm, feel like they belong, and have a place there. And so the thing that I've found is that it's not limited to a certain group of people, but instead every single person desires that, wants that, longs for belonging. And so when I'm at my most uncomfortable in these places where it's like, they booked me for the wrong event, like they don't want me to speak here, this is a bad idea. If I just remember that they're all human beings who want to be loved just like me, it's gonna it's gonna work. And without fail, it has. It doesn't mean it hasn't been easy, but it always connects, because there is this thing inside all of us that is a thread throughout all of humanity, is this longing for acceptance and love and for each other. And so we already have it. We can have an expansive spirit, open people into it, and say, you know what? I know that they've cut people off from the table, but I have a table. You're welcome at it. Come on. And pretty soon, the whole restaurant is just one giant table all put together, and it's just all of us there. That's what I want to see. And a lot of the messages that I've created originally originated in, I want this to matter to a fourth grade classroom. And then finding that everybody else needed it too. That if it's true for them, it's going to be true for everybody. And that's been a great gift to
Yeah.
discover.
Yeah, it's amazing. We had Julia Cameron on the show, and
Yes.
she's like you know, she's been the Pied Piper to bring so many people into their
Oh
own
yeah.
music and in every way. But I remember her saying, because I asked her, I said, do you really think every person is talented or creative at something? I mean, really, you know? And she said, have you ever been in a preschool and seen any child that doesn't love to paint or play an instrument? No, right? And she said, but what they have in common is they're going to let themselves play the instrument upside down, or they're going to get paint in their nose. And it's okay. And it's okay.
Yes.
And they're okay. And so I think that people who are listening to you right now might be thinking, oh my gosh, he's so loving and he's giving me all of this unconditional kindness. But what he doesn't know is that, like, he's really talented and I'm not. So maybe I'm welcome to watch or to observe, but I don't think he gets it. Like he just said before, he makes humans look like potatoes, but like he's amazing. Like, go look at his work, you know, and look at how he writes. Like, who is he to tell me that I can do that? I don't do anything close to that, right? So how do we as people stop overthinking it and stop selling ourselves down the river when really it's like hard to see any other reality than he doesn't get it, he's just being nice?
He's just being nice. Which is there is there are is greatness, a divine spark in every person that I really do believe has to be nurtured and has to be loved out of them. That it is there. It is something that is wild and wonderfully unique to them. That is there. That there are things that need to be shared that so many aren't, because they are afraid of just that. Like, oh, that's because, well, Kathy's great at this, so she's doing that, or he's a master at this, he's playing the cello, I can never do that. And what I love is when I wrote a story about, and I share this a lot in classrooms, but then also with people who run children's hospitals or whatever. It's about a bird who is incredibly afraid of the song he has to share because it doesn't sound like the other birds.
I
Because
love it so much.
have these songs that are really cool and perfect, and this bird's over here doing this, and the cardinal's doing this, and he's really into hip hop. And so, like, it's just very confusing for he doesn't want them to hear it, but then he just feels this great sadness and says, "I've got to share it." So this bird he gets a beatbox out, and then he starts playing, and the entire woods come gathered around to hear the new music. And a lot of them are confused and they send nasty tweets, as they do. And then some of them are just like, that's not music. I'm out of here. But then a lot of the other birds are like, whoa, wait a minute. I think he just took a piece from Cardinal and he took a piece from that bird. He's remixing. This is cool. It's a whole new thing. And so then, because of what he's done, he's no longer alone. That song has filled the woods with the song it needed, that a sound that was missing, and that is the thing that I see great teachers doing this. I see great parents, grown-ups, who are letting every kid know they are a piece of a puzzle. And if they're not sharing that thing, no matter how small, tiny it feels, if they're not doing it, we're not seeing the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
We're missing it. And there's a woman that this just is one of my favorite things. One of my friends was a filmmaker, and his mom was visiting a nursing home, and he heard this she heard this elderly woman playing piano, and it was so beautiful, and she played it every day, and he started coming with his mom to meet this woman, and discovered that her whole life she had written children's music. She had written songs for children, but she never did anything with them. So he got together a bunch of people and recorded her songs. And it's this beautiful story of this woman who had this gift, and she felt like they were too simple or too, she's just a mom. It was this weird time. So she just sort of kept them in the little piano bench and then shared them with the world years later. And I got to do an event where we pulled the entire audience together and had them all sing one of her songs in a symphony hall, and right where it belonged, out in the world. That this song had been missed. It was missing. I like to think that maybe there's a cave of forgotten songs, lost stories, messages, characters, businesses, products, rockets, things that were supposed to be made, but people just were too afraid.
Yes.
And they hid them.
Yeah.
And somehow we can begin to bring those out of the cave, bring them out, and humanity's better. We're better for it.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love how you say, like, if it's not shared, there's a part of the story we're missing. You know, we
There's a
need that
hole
part.
missing. Yes.
Yes, I love that you say that. And I think that you're right. I think that because people are scared, they don't put it out there. And the reason they're scared is because somewhere along the way, probably more than once, unfortunately, their hearts got broken and someone rejected them. And there was something they put their arms out for, whether it was love or whether it was for someone to see them, and they had their hearts crushed. And so they just want to say, like, oh, I actually don't want anything, I'm fine, or oh, I have nothing. So how do you, because I'm sure you're coming across this, and I can tell from reading what you're writing that you know that when you're writing things. So how do you encourage someone who's listening right now to press publish and take the seat at the table when they are so afraid and there's so much pain?
Yeah. So, because what's awesome is I've had this. At first, it was confusing because a lot of kids would message me saying, like, I want to start a YouTube channel. How can I get followers? But then it's also changed to where it's other people wanting to start a business or whatever, and they reach out thinking that I have some great insight of how to do that. And I'm going, oh, I don't know. But then I've found that the most helpful thing to share, whether it's this teenager who's wanting to start a YouTube channel or someone wanting to do something bold and new in the world, there's this need where you're going to say, okay, I want to do this for followers. I want to do this for applause. I want to do this
Right.
for love, when the answer is to do it from love. So the starting question for that kid wanting to start their YouTube channel that I asked them is, okay, well, we'll get to the follower stuff later. I can give you some hacks later. We'll figure, but just to like keep them. But what do you want to say? Like, what's in your heart of hearts? Like, what is it that you feel like you are so full of love, you've got to share this?
Yep.
What do you have to share? And then they begin to open up. They begin to have something, or maybe they don't, and then they have to step away and come back. But to do it from love, not for love, is the starting place where you're going to have fuel to get you through
Yep.
everything.
Yep. It's
You
so
know
true.
this through your work of that deep desire to love the people around you, to connect, to bring them into their bigger selves. That's going to pull you through the hard days.
It's so true. And you're right. And I'm glad you're reminding me of that. But that really is the greatest way to overcome this fear, is to not make it like I have to prove something or be impressive. Is like, I just want to give something, right? I want to make it about
Uh-huh.
who I'm doing it for. And then I don't have to even worry about all those other things because I just know I have to put this
Yeah,
in the
this is
world.
just a gift. It's just a gift. It's not a thing
Yeah.
in which you're trying to win something back or get a golden ticket to enter somewhere. You're literally just sharing a gift, and maybe it'll be received with the same love you made it. Maybe not. It's a gift. It's okay.
I've never heard that in my ears before. No one's ever said that, but I just love the way that you just put that. Like, I'm just giving you a gift. If you give someone a gift, right? You don't you didn't need them to press subscribe. You don't need them to think it's the best present they ever had. It's a gift, right? So if it's a gift, I don't have to put all this pressure on. I'm literally just giving you this thing because I want to give it to you.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is awesome. I've never heard that or thought that, and I love it. So speaking of things that you're putting in the world, um, you wrote a book called Becoming Better Grown-ups, Rediscovering What Matters. And then I love the last part, and remembering how to fly.
Yeah.
What's this
Yeah.
book about? Why did you want to write this book?
Um, so we did a book called Kid President's Guide to Being Awesome. And I had a blast writing that. I had a bigger blast going on book tour, like getting to be in classrooms and schools, being with people. Like I'd been tethered to my laptop, editing videos, writing videos, like constantly. Was
Right.
never actually getting to interact with the humans that like were seeing them. I would spend weeks on one video, and
Mhm.
then, you know, there it was. That
Right.
was it. And so to actually look people in the eyes, to hear the stories, it was oxygen for me. It was just, the world. Like there's so much beauty out there.
So good.
So I immediately wanted to go on book tour again, but I didn't have a book. And so I was like, what am I going to do? So I started a listening tour. And I just showed up at schools, applied to it, and they would let me come in their classroom, and I'd have questions that I would send beforehand or whatever. Uh, and to a varying degree, they could just share with me how I could be a better grown up. Like, what do you want to tell the grown up world about, like, what we could do better? What's wrong with us? And kids opened up in big ways, in quiet little whispers and loud shouts of, hey, man, like, you guys need to step it up. You need to do this. And it was really eye opening. And so it turned into this big project where I was like, I'm going to visit with elementary schools in every single state. And so I interacted with schools that were like castles that looked like Hogwarts, schools that were in trailers, homeschools,
Hmm.
unschools, all sorts of environments. but spent time with kids. And so the book is about
Amazing. Wow.
what
I
I
love it. A
learned how to be a
listening
better
tour.
grown up.
I love that you said a listening tour. I'm like, of course. Of course he did a listening tour because he would listen. So tell us what some of the main lessons are that really stuck in your heart that you want to sort of give us a highlight of.
I, One thing that rang true all over, because it varied, all of the different things that kids would say. I learned a ton about uh, attention spans and the questions that they would then ask me, and I'm like, I'm not supposed to answer questions right now. Um, but what I really discovered, I had spent so much time, trying to make sure that the kids knew they mattered. Your presence matters. What you do, like just you being here, makes the world more awesome. And the big thing I learned that they want from grown-ups is just us to be there. Just be there. Just be there. You show up. And it doesn't have to be spectacular. Even discovered that there's science, there's research to prove this, that what actually helps us cope and grow and give us the things we need is just consistent people who showed up. They didn't throw us a big party or take us on giant trips. They tied our shoe every day and showed they were there. And so as a dad, as a man, like wanting to do right by the people in my orbit, it gave me great ease and comfort to realize that I just relax my shoulders and just be there, be present in their lives. So that
Oh,
was big.
that is so, so, so big because everyone is trying so hard to come up with the next big thing. And
Yeah, yeah. Me too. I wanted to like be the grandest parent I could. We're gonna do big things. It's gonna be hot air balloons. We're gonna have parades.
yeah.
For fun. I love that. We're having a big party in our backyard tonight with a choir that's going to be there.
Of
Insane. It's
course you
going to be
are. Of
great.
course.
It's going to be great. But that won't be the most important thing I did today. It'll be that I tied my daughter's shoes, and I'm going to do that tomorrow too. Uh, I also, like, after I'd spent time with all of the kids, I hit this point where I realized I needed a vision, a true north for going forward. Like, are there people who've done this right? Is there anybody who figured it out? So I interviewed people over the age of 100 and spent time with them, former kids, people who've actually grown up. And what I found was the same presence and gratitude and wonder that a fourth grader has. Those really bright 103-year-olds, they've got it. They hung on to it. It was hard fought for a lot of them, but they came back to it. And they were more alive than sometimes the kids. It was fascinating and gave me a North Star of, oh, I want to be like that.
That's incredible. When you say they were more alive, and you mentioned a few words before, was the central thing gratitude? What was the
Oh,
central?
yes. I think it was gratitude and wonder. Like, several of them in the conversation over and over, they would say, wow, wow, how great we're here. There was one lady who over and over just kept interrupting the conversation. He'd be like, wow, now, where did you grow up? And I said, Tennessee. She's like, I grew up in New York. What are we doing here together right now? How wild is this?
I love
Over
that
and
so
over,
much.
over and over, just like almost, she's just sitting there in awe and constantly going like, hey, wake up. Come sit here in awe with me too. The fact that we're here. Um, that was a great gift. And it, it, I think kids have wonder, maybe not always gratitude.
Yeah.
And there's a wisdom to that I think is hard earned, that we can
Yeah.
land in, of of having the wonder and the gratitude
Yep.
all the time, no matter the circumstances, of being able to see the magic even when it's hard,
Yep.
because it's always there.
Is there anything that you do to start your day or end your day or in the middle of your day that whether you do it every day or once in a while, do you have any kind of like practice that grounds you and reminds you to be grateful?
I I want so badly to have I really love those books that share all the morning routines of great
Yeah.
creative people, or those business books where it's like those guys who get up at 5 a.m. and they do whatever.
Yep.
I've read like a Desmond Tutu, his like
Yeah.
routine of everything he does. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And then I have a 6-year-old and 4-year-old.
Yep.
I'm on their routine,
Yep.
and so there's that of just the busyness of life around me, and all of the desire to create and put out good in the world, and dancing with all of that. And so for me, it's become a steady pause of allowing myself permission to go slow,
Mm.
allowing myself permission to stop and breathe all throughout the day and rest in the wonder of what's happening right now, whatever that is.
Yep.
Um, some people call that prayer. Some people call it many other things. But for me, it is grand central.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
what provides the necessary perspective to launch forward.
So those are some really essential elements of what it means to be a better grown up. That last piece of the title, we're just remembering how to fly.
Yeah,
What did
yeah.
you learn about that we can take with us?
There's a story that goes throughout the book that's in 3 parts. That's called the Incredible Floating Girl, and it's a story about a girl who is born with this ability to fly. She just keeps floating, and her dad's really upset about this. Just concerned, what are people going to think? She's going to hurt herself, and so it's the entire community rallying around, hey, we've got to get a handle on this. Um, and then how to come to terms with the hurt of that, of hiding that, and the need to return to flight. Um, that came from the first time I held my daughter. We have 2 children. My son, when I held him, it was this beautiful moment. My daughter, that was born with this just wild exuberance, this joy that just was natural. And so the doctors are just like, oh, it's gas. Like she's just gassy. She's just laughing all the time. And I was like, no, she's like really happy. She doesn't know that I do not know what I'm doing. She is just this happy baby. And I became to like just it spooked me in my head. I'm thinking, I'm gonna mess this up. I'm going to here very soon, I am going to completely make her lose this joy. That's something and it just, I became determined to not want that joy to go away. How do I hang on to that? I met a principal, a high school principal at one of the visits who he asked all of the parents of kindergartners who are coming into the school, what do they want to, what do they want to be? What do you want your child to become, and who are they already? And there was one parent who said that his daughter wants to be a unicorn trainer, and he said, what my hope is for you in this school is that you won't let her lose that imagination, that fierce imagination. Um, and the principal vowed that he would not, that he would do everything he could. And that I think is something we should all do, is be fiercely protective of the imaginative, wild joy that's in every child, and that's within all of us.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Remind
And
each other to fly.
as we're closing out, I feel like so many people um, who listen to this show, and I think so many people in general, but people who listen to this show, so many of them, they have so many things that they would love to make, but sometimes they don't know what it is.
Hmm.
And my guess is that they don't spend enough time just like iterating or putting it out there, right? But I'm curious what you would say because you seem like the kind of person who has a, like 1,000 ideas a day, but then certain ones you choose to do something about. What is your sort of advice to someone who wants to do it now? They're like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm put it out there, but like, what do I put out? How do I get back in touch with my creativity, or how do I sort of unleash that part of me because it's been sort of stifled for so long? It's not a muscle I'm used to flexing. Any ideas or like an exercise or
Yes.
something you?
Yes. I
Okay.
think one thing a lot of people get hung up on is they hang their hats on the success of what the outcome's going to be, thinking this is the thing. If I make this, that means I'm a writer of books forever. That's my thing. And what I would love and what I feel like is freeing to any person who makes anything is allow yourself to make lots and lots and lots of things. And that may seem even more daunting, but it's actually not, because then you can say, I've got this thing burning inside me. I want to make it. Make it. Just make it. Is it good? I don't know. Just make it. And then make something else. And then make something else. And
Yes.
more and more and more, you're going to find your distinct voice, the thumbprints that are you. Like it may actually not be a podcast. It might be a film. It might be a play. It might be a business. It may be wherever X. It is vital that you just do it.
Yeah.
Get it out of you, and then do more and do more and more, and you'll find it, and we will be better for it.
Yep. Tell us where we can find you because you're so delicious and everybody wants to be around you more. But where can we find you? What's the best place?
I'm on Instagram at Brad Montague, Montague, and I have the book that's coming out. You can go to beabettergrownup.com. It's for pre-order now, and everybody who pre-orders, this is top secret, Kathy, but your listeners, they can know this.
Okay.
If you pre-order, you get inducted into the secret society for Better Grown-Ups. You have to do a pinky promise once you get it, but then you're officially in the club. So
I love it. Everything you do makes the world so much more alive and so much more loved. So thank you for all of it.
thank you.
Amazing.